Hi everyone, my name is Hazel and I work in the digital reality side of our business where I focus on KeyShot and NeoSpace, which allows you to kind of create those photorealistic images and assets, as well as exploring kind of how models can then be viewed in the virtual and augmented reality environments. So in this presentation, I'm going to go through how Luxian software KeyShot and our own in-house developed software NeoSpace can be used throughout the design process and incorporated into the ball-off project that you've seen in the previous presentations. So here's a quick run through of what is to come. First, I'm going to focus on KeyShot and go through a kind of a quick overview of what that is and some of its key features. If you heard Jens's presentation earlier on, you kind of got the gist of what its capabilities are and its current features that are in place. I'll then be showing examples how it can be used throughout the design process and linking it to a real life case study, and then kind of saying how it could be included at different design stages throughout the ball-off project. I'll then go on to talk about NeoSpace, which is our own in-house developed piece of software. Again, I'll kind of say what it is and how it came about, as well as its main key features. And then again, kind of link to how it might be used kind of within the ball-off process. So I'm going to start off with KeyShot. So kind of what is KeyShot? As we've already seen from kind of Jens's presentation earlier on, you can see kind of what features do exist in there, what it can be used for, and so forth. But in a nutshell, it's kind of a standalone piece of rendering software that allows you to achieve photorealistic results within minutes, utilizing kind of CAD data that you've got readily available to you. Okay. So I'm just going to go over kind of briefly what I believe some of the key features are of KeyShot. Okay, so it's easy to use. With a few easy steps, you can create your visuals from your CAD models. Just import your models, add materials, adjust lights and cameras, and then you've got your render. It allows you to present your results quicker, as it can be integrated throughout the whole design process and import a wide variety of file formats. There is a large library of scientifically accurate materials that can be applied into your scene and tweaked to get your desired results. It uses either the core processor power of your machine or your graphics card to render out that final image or asset. There is advanced lighting capabilities to create the most accurate lighting for simple studio shots or more complex interior lighting scenes. And every change you make, whether it's materials, lighting or geometry, is instantly updated and allows you to evaluate the results within a few seconds. So that's a quick run through of what the key features of KeyShot are. I'm now going to go through how KeyShot can be used throughout the design process and how this can be, or how it has been done, by a company called Envoy. So it's a real life case study, and you can find more information about what their design process is, as well as how they utilize KeyShot throughout on the Luxian website. So here are some of the stages that you might encounter throughout your design process. I'm going to show you how KeyShot can be used at each of these. We're going to start off at the beginning of the design process, which is the concept stage. So KeyShot can bring in a wide variety of file formats. So from the beginning, you can bring in kind of any models that you might have created in any 3D CAD package and start to kind of add materials on. And as it's quick and easy just to drag and drop on, you can see straight away if that's a design path you want to go down or you haven't wasted any time if you decide against it. So the way Envoy have tackled this is they've just brought in a 2D sketch effectively, and then they've started to add on materials that they might commonly use throughout their own product range, just to see if this is kind of a design route they want to go down. It's a bit more of a unique way of showing concept work, with it being kind of in 2D imagery and then putting effectively a plate over the top with the callouts. But again, it's just showcasing how KeyShot could be used within concepts. The next stage kind of is the development stage. So as mentioned, KeyShot can bring in any files. So again, at the development stage, you might in your kind of CAD package have started to use the modeling software that you would be doing and kind of tweaking those concepts to show different design ideas and how you can take it further. Now, each of those ideas could then be brought into KeyShot itself, and then you can then start to apply different materials into place. You may not necessarily decide which ones, so therefore the ability of having multi-materials within KeyShot can help with this process. And it also allows you to bring in multiple models as well. So you could have more than one model that is connected to the same material types, and then you could toggle it between it. everything's all in the same scene with the same lighting, so you know that you're getting kind of like the same look for all of those individual models. So Envoy have kind of done similar. They know that they used to do it kind of as a 2D sketching and kind of colouring in, so this would have been based on a tablet in a way. And they can then replicate all of that within KeyShot itself. So at this point, they will have created their helmet as 3D geometry, which they can start to bring in and then apply and tweak materials how they want. So the development stage is not just the modeling, it can also be the final look, so like your final materials and how they may be affected by kind of different lighting sources. But the beauty of kind of using the KeyShot for this side is that if you then decide that this is the final project you want to go for, you've already created your render scene. So maybe the odd tweak of lighting maybe, or if you want to change the background color, that's the only thing that has to be done then to create those final marketing images. Other images that you can also then pull out, which can be useful for the development stage again, is if you just wanted to have close-ups for the images, to kind of really show off certain areas, whether or not it's like the front visor or the clip, in this case of the helmet. And then, as I've said before, if it is then decided that this is the design you want to go with and this is a color scheme, you've got your scene set up and you've already got some kind of marketing images that you could potentially use. So the next stage I've got in the design process is the approval stage. So this might be where you want to showcase your models to stakeholders or other colleagues or clients. And you want to show them kind of rendered or like what the final image might look like. So within KeyShot, there is what's known as a configurator where you can set it up that it displays all your different models, which they can toggle between, as well as any kind of materials that the product may also come in. Kind of like the beauty of the configurator is that the end user isn't just seeing the KeyShot interface, so therefore they are not kind of bombarded with the entire library of materials and tweaking your model that way. So to show it how Envoy has done it as well, they've kind of also included the camera options within their configurator. So again, it can then hope to hone in on certain bits if you wanted the customer to focus in on a specific detail, that can be included. So after approval, I've got the prototyping stage. Now I am using kind of prototyping kind of a bit loosely here. It's different type maybe to what you would be expecting, and that's kind of using it to see if the product is going to be fit for purpose or fits in with your environment. So this is where you can use KeyShot's AR capability. You're able to upload the model up to their KeyShot cloud, and then when viewed on a tablet or mobile device, there is the ability to jump it into the augmented reality environment. And then here you can see it true to scale. You can kind of walk around the model, fully investigate it and see if you think it is going to kind of fit the area that it's meant to be in. So to show it off with how Envoy have done it, obviously a bit more with a steadier hand with their camera work, they can show that all the full 360 around their helmet as if it was sat on a computer desk in front of them. Okay. So this is kind of like one area that you might do regarding prototyping because there's kind of really no costs involved here. You don't have to kind of get something printed out or manufactured small to see, is this the way I want to go? It's probably like the stage before that in a way. There's nothing stopping you obviously doing the 3D printing. That is what Envoy have done. And kind of another benefit towards using KeyShot is that once you've applied all those materials and textures to your 3D geometry, you can export it out as a 3MF file. Now this 3MF file will contain the geometry data of the model, of your CAD model within there, as well as the colors of the materials that you've put on there, plus any textures and roughness. So therefore, when you input this into your kind of 3D printer, it can read all this. So therefore, that model that you can therefore see on this screen, it does have the roughness texture that was applied in KeyShot on there. Again, giving kind of that prototype a bit more kind of a feel to it. So then kind of like the final stage really is like marketing and sales. Now, if you've been using KeyShot throughout the whole process, from the design development side, then you've probably already got a good starting point for creating these type of images and assets. There's no need to start again. You can repurpose those initial images. And as it's always connected to your CAD data, if any of that data was then updated to finalize that design, the model within KeyShot itself will also be updated without the need to completely start from scratch. So the way KeyShot could be used, you could do singular product shots if you wanted it on a white background, if it was therefore to be printed out in a brochure, or you could create kind of interior scenes if your product is kind of going to be displayed, kind of within a building or within a room. And as well as still images, there is the option to do like animations, whether or not these are kind of close-ups of certain sections of the model, or again, just kind of fancy camera actions, just to spin around the model or subtly in any way. You've also got the option to play around with depth of field as well, and shutter speed, like you would do if you were creating the scene manually with an actual photo camera. And then all the assets that you can get out of KeyShot, such as still imagery or animations, can all then be applied and embedded into websites. Okay. They also have the option for doing turntables. So these are kind of interactive images where if the end user scrolls over them, it can either show an animation that you've created or it can tumble the model round. You can also able to include things like the configurator, which Envoy have done here. So if, for example, the product that you are showcasing does come in a variety of colors, you can put that into place as well. So as you can see, everything you've created at all stages throughout that design process can actually be used in the final stage for marketing. Okay, so you're not wasting time. Another kind of key benefit for using KeyShot throughout is that you don't have to wait for that product to be made or manufactured. You then also don't have to have the costs of trying to set up a photo studio or a recording studio where you've got someone physically moving the products or positioning the products, try and do the lighting within there. So yeah, it's all quick and easy and fun to do. So how can KeyShot be used throughout the ball-off process? So starting off at the concept stage, we've already seen that they do use Creo to model their coils. So let's say they use it to start off with their concepts and someone has come up with a new design for a coil. With KeyShot, there is the ability to have a plugin. So within Creo itself, they can click to say they want to render it in KeyShot, and it will then directly open that file into KeyShot. Here they can then start to kind of manipulate the scene as they want and kind of reposition where they want that coil to be. And it allows them to kind of showcase that concept design differently compared to it just being a 3D CAD model. So they can have their own kind of like artistic flair within here. They may, as an example, use the toon material on the coil itself. So it's just more kind of looks like a technical drawing in some elements. And then for this particular example, I've just done a background of 3 different kind of metal colors that the coil could potentially be manufactured in. And I'm just kind of doing like a spray paint effect really in the background. So it'll just kind of make the part kind of stand out from the background image as well and pop out a bit more without kind of adding too much shine and detracting too much from the shape of the coil itself. So then after the concept stage, you've then got the development stage. So again, the model is within Creo itself. I can use the plugin to then push that data directly into a brand new KeyShot scene. And as it's the development stage, I'd probably start to make sure I've got correct lighting in the background that I'd want to use and then apply materials to the product itself. As mentioned before, the development stage isn't just about the physical geometry itself. It can be about the materials that it might be made out of. So within KeyShot, I can start to apply what the potential materials are and tweak them, whether or not that's adding textures or just manipulating the color. Again, to start to build up that portfolio of design choices that I want to choose from. Now, if someone then says, I've changed the design in Creo, and to put these side by side so you can see them, you'll see that when they click the update button in the plugin, it has updated the KeyShot straight away. There is no need to start the scene again. It's remembered the lighting, it's got all the correct materials that you've just applied on there. It's just simply updated that geometry from the CAD data. So as you can see, there's always going to be that link there, and it means you can always repurpose your data as well. So next, from the kind of development stage, I didn't really do an approval part in this one. I'm just kind of going to go straight to the um, AR side of it, so augmented reality, just so you can see if it's maybe does kind of its correct size or fit for purpose in any way. Now with KeyShot, what this allows you to do is save it in a web viewer effectively. So within here, because you might be showcasing it to kind of stakeholders or clients, as well as being able to upload the model with those materials on, you can also upload images. So it will look at the cameras that you've set up within KeyShot, and it will create rendered images of your model at those particular camera angles. And these will then be displayed on the website as well. Now, as well as this, you can also specify that you want to enable augmented reality on the iOS file, so it will create the correct USDZ file for anyone who's using kind of an iOS device. And then it will then start to kind of bake all those materials onto the model, save it, and upload it onto their KeyShot Cloud server. Once it has uploaded, it will then provide you with a link. With this link, you can either copy it and send it to someone else, or you can just click on it straight away to open it in your browser. Please note these can be password protected if you wanted them to be. So when they open them up on a browser, they'll be able to rotate and interact with the model, fully see it from all angles. And if you did have different color options, they'll be able to toggle between those different materials. Any images that was linked to can also be toggled as well, just by clicking on the Images tab. And so there is then that AR button in the top right, which they can then use if they then wanted to, for example, see the coil in front of them. Just as a side note as well, there is the option for virtual reality. So if you did have a headset that was connected to your machine, they would be able to click on the VR button, which is just underneath that AR button on the top right, and then they'll be able to see it within a headset as well. Other kind of options and assets that KeyShot could create for you to help kind of show off, in this case, the coil, is what's known as an XR. So it's a web page that can be interacted with. So using the mouse, you can just kind of tumble around the model. It's built up of a load of images, so it's all high quality images from there compared to the GLB that you'd have seen in the previous slide. So other assets you can build from this, which could be useful for marketing, is you can create a lot of still images. So here, as an example, I've kind of combined together the drawing files that have been taken from Creo and overlaid the actual 3D geometry with the correct, well, with materials applied onto it. So you could kind of gives the viewer kind of the option to be able to really understand what those 2D drawings are showing. We probably all know someone that can't read 2D drawings very well. There's always that someone in the family where you give them an IKEA manual and they don't really know what's going on with it. So it's just maybe like a unique way of being able to kind of show people, well, this is the sizing, this is actually what it's going to look like, adding that bit of 3D to the 2D world. Other things it can do as well is it's got a toon material. So I did showcase a toon material at the concept stage where you can use it maybe for like a technical drawing or just to kind of show this is the model, ignore any materials that are on there. But another way of using it is to effectively add some transparency to any casing if you wanted to show off the mechanisms inside. So that's what I've just done here. Just applied it to the outside area so you can see the kind of inside connection of where the drill bit goes into the tool. And then there's other images that you can kind of extract from KeyShot as well for marketing materials. Here you could play around with kind of shutter speed and cameras if you wanted to put a depth of field on to draw focus into certain kind of areas of the model. And you can also build in animations. So you could do things like kind of just fancy camera animations where it's like a slow zoom or a slow rotation around certain parts of the model to make more bits come into view or even like disappear out of view. And then one kind of cool feature that I quite like within KeyShot is there is a simulation option. So you could do something where you've got kind of all the coils dropping onto the tool at the top. You could have that as like a top level banner maybe on your website. So as well as kind of just marketing material that shows off your products in any way, you could also create animations which could be used as part of training manuals or just instruction manuals to show how to assemble the part or how to use the part. So here I've created an animation completely in KeyShot itself where it shows how to put the drill piece into the tool itself, and then again like a cutaway version of it, so they actually know what is happening inside of that drill piece, and then how to then get the coil onto the drill and into a block. Now all of this has been using that 3D CAD data that was created in Creo itself. So I've not had to wait for any of these parts to be manufactured and then sent to me. I've not had to set up a recording studio or make sure that the right people are available on the right days to film and get this set up. Another thing is if someone then says, oh, I've changed the design of the coil or the drill piece is a different drill piece that's to be used, I can just get that updated CAD data, make sure it's pushed through into KeyShot. That file then automatically update, and I've still got all the animations and whatnot created for me. So that was KeyShot and how that could be used throughout the design process. The next piece of software I'm going to talk about is NeoSpace. So what is NeoSpace? These days, products can easily be displayed in 3D or AR through smartphones and browsers. However, the challenges included large file sizes, long loading times, and incompatible data formats. So NeoSpace is our own in-house developed software that provided a solution to these challenges. It's an innovative tool that allows you to drastically reduce the file size of your model, add materials to your model, animate them, and export them to Web 3D. It's so quick and simple that it doesn't require much training to do. So here are some of the key features that I'm going to go through. So within NeoSpace, you can build up your own scenes. It can bring in step files, FBX files, and it can also bring in GLB and USTZ. Now, KeyShot does export GLB files, so any scene, any images and renders you've created within there, you could export out and open up into NeoSpace to use all of NeoSpace's features within there. Once it's in NeoSpace, you'll see that it'll show you the dimensions, so you can make sure that it's of the correct scale, as well as the kind of hierarchy, so you can check that all the parts are in place or hide and remove parts that aren't necessarily needed for what you're going to use NeoSpace for. And it also gives you the option to kind of set up a different environment. So you could put a different background image on or just set up it as a solid color. And you can play around with NeoSpace's lighting. So one thing to note is if you have exported it from KeyShot, it is a GLB file, so it is not exporting the KeyShot's lighting environment that you've applied. So that's why that is the next stage to do really within here. So once you've kind of brought your model in, you can then tweak materials. So if you have used a file from KeyShot itself, it will show you what those materials are. And as it is a different file format compared to what you'll see when you do your final renders out of KeyShot, what NeoSpace allows you to do is tweak those materials in any way. Like if they've come in with not enough roughness or not enough metallic elements, you can use the sliders to add or decrease those values. And you can also manipulate the colouring if need be. As well as being able to manipulate the colours that it came in on, there is also a standard library that comes with the software. So here it's a kind of a simple way of just a drag and drop on. If you don't like the material, just don't drop it onto the part and find one that you do like. And then all these will get saved with the model as you're going along. As well as like a basic library, they've got a flat and a transparent library as well. So this is where you can change the color picker at the top, or you can type it in a hex value if you know what it is. And again, simply just drag and drop the material that you want onto the model. So as well as materials, you've also got the option to add in labels or stickers as they are known in NeoSpace. So if you have applied materials within NeoSpace, you may then want to apply your branding on top of it. Obviously, if you've brought this in from KeyShot as a GLB, those would already be on there if they were applied within KeyShot. So this is a case of if you want it applied to a piece of material that was done in NeoSpace itself. And you simply just click to say where you want it, and you will find that it will wrap around that part as well. So let's talk about kind of animating in NeoSpace. NeoSpace will allow you to create basic model and part animations. You can't create camera animations in NeoSpace, and that's because the full model will always be interactive. You'll always be able to rotate around and see that model from all angles. So yeah, it is mainly just part animations that you can build within here. They can be on single parts or groups of parts. And the way it works is by setting keyframes. So you set its kind of start position, say how long you want it to go for, and then you set its end position. These animations can be played on loop as well, and they can be used in other areas of the NeoSpace software. You can have more than one animation per model as well. As well as animations, you can add in annotations to the model. So these are kind of like call outs that you can add on. So you can just click on a certain part and give it a name, so maybe describing what it is. And then you can link it to different things, such as maybe realistic photo images, whether or not they're from KeyShot itself or an actual photo. And you can also link it to maybe data sheets on your website. As well as information annotations, you can also have interaction annotations. So these ones can link to maybe animations you've built within NeoSpace itself. So if your end user clicks on, in this case, the wheel, it will then show them how that wheel can then be removed. Kind of one of the biggest areas of NeoSpace is the manual side. So these manuals are kind of a quick and easy way of creating step-by-step tutorials or kind of service manuals, or just even like an online brochure of your product. You're able to kind of create your own themes within there. So if you've got specific colors that are linked to your company, you can add them into place, as well as any branding and logos. And then depending what it was that you're creating this manual for, you can then change how you want this front cover to be, whether or not, for example, if it is a tutorial, you can have a difficulty level in there and how long it's going to take. If it was more of a online brochure kind of thing, you might just have a description of kind of what that product is going to be. Then when it comes to the content side of it, it does use whatever model is currently open in NeoSpace, but you can add other models in as well. You're able to name each step as you're going along, as well as kind of add in any sub steps. You can add in warnings or informations or top tips along the side, and these will always appear on kind of like the right of a desktop screen. And you can have more than one slide per step, shall we say. So you may have one where it's a static image, whereas the next one it's maybe got the animations moving on there. There's multiple assets you can have within here. It doesn't just have to be NeoSpace files. You could also bring in documents if you wanted data sheets within there, or even some of the assets that you've created in KeyShot can also be uploaded into this. Now, whilst you're building it, it does give you the option to preview. So when you do the preview run through, you can then make sure that kind of like the data is being displayed as you expected. So if for example, you've got annotations on some screens but not on others, you can just double check that has actually come across. But it also gives you the option to display it either on a desktop, tablet, or a phone, because these NeoSpace files can be viewed on any of these kind of devices. So therefore, it's good just to test out that when you do the preview that you are able to actually see the information that you've applied. And then kind of finally, you've got the ability to optimize and share the files. So one of the challenges that people may have faced when it comes to putting their assets onto a website is that they're just too large. So therefore, the upload speed takes quite a while. And therefore, like when it comes to their customers and clients trying to extract that information, the download takes even longer. So what NeoSpace can do is it uses different compression techniques to reduce the file size. So here we can see it's gone down by like 96%. So therefore, you've then got that smaller file to then upload to the web. So uploading, there's different ways of sharing. There is a NeoSpace cloud, which you can upload, and you can apply passwords to it if you wanted to. And this would then give you a URL link, which you can then send out to people that they can then open either on a desktop or mobile device. But another option is you can extract some HTML coding from NeoSpace itself, and then you can embed that into your own website. So I'm just going to show how I included NeoSpace into the ball-off process. I admit for this one, I've kind of stuck to it being like an online brochure. So with the online brochure, it's just being displayed currently on a tablet, and it's just going to go through what all the parts are that are used to help install like a helicoil, going from the tool itself to the drill bit and the coil. As you can see here, can have annotations as well as interactive annotations, and it can also display any technical data kind of on the right-hand side. Now, all the interactive models you're seeing here have been brought in from KeyShot and just tweaked into NeoSpace. But you can see it can also bring in any photos that you might have or any technical drawings that you might want to include. And all of this is using the CAD data. So I don't have to wait for something to be manufactured and created and presented in front of me to then take any photos or do any videos for animations. As soon as the engineers have said, I've created the model in Creo, I can then extract that information from Creo straight away and start to build all this kind of marketing material and training material that can be used later on. So it's kind of like a quicker time to market, really. Now, for example, as well in this video, you can see everything is in English. NeoSpace does also give you the option of a language pack, so you can display these in other languages as well. So if you wanted it in, as example, German, it can be done. Okay, and that is everything. So that is how KeyShot and NeoSpace can be used throughout the design process. Thank you very much for listening.